Have you ever done something, truly believing it was the right choice, only to look back years later and feel nothing but regret? It's easy to think that aging automatically brings more problems, more regrets, and more sadness. But the truth is, much of the misery people feel later in life doesn't come from age itself. It comes from small, avoidable mistakes, habits and mindsets that quietly drain your happiness without you even realizing it. Most people don't see it happening. They assume, well, that's just how life is now. But I want you to hear me clearly, it doesn't have to be this way. You're not stuck. You're not broken. And you do not have to spend your remaining years feeling weighed down by frustration or emotional exhaustion. In this video, we're going to uncover 5 of the most common, and most overlooked, mistakes older adults make. Mistakes that slowly shrink your world, chip away at your peace, and make life feel lonelier than it ever needs to be. These aren't mistakes of the body. They're mistakes of the heart, the mind, and the spirit. And the good news? You can start changing them, today. This video was made with care for anyone between 55 and 80 who wants to feel stronger, lighter, and more in control of their emotional well-being. If that's you, you're in exactly the right place. Stay with me until the very end, because mistake number 5 is something almost nobody talks about, but it might be the very thing that's been quietly stealing your joy for years. Mistake number 1, holding on to bitterness. One of the biggest traps older adults fall into, often without even realizing it, is holding on to bitterness. Maybe it's an old betrayal, a family argument that never healed, or simply regret over how certain parts of life turned out. Those wounds don't just vanish with time, they sit there, unhealed, quietly hardening your heart. But here's the painful truth. Bitterness is like drinking poison and hoping someone else gets sick. It doesn't change the past. It only steals from your present. Bitterness has a sneaky way of showing up in daily life. You might catch yourself replaying the same arguments in your head. You feel that knot in your chest whenever you hear a certain name. Maybe you even feel resentment toward your children or siblings because their lives turned out differently from what you imagined. Over time, that bitterness isolates you. It pushes people away and leaves you alone with your own thoughts. And after 60, when there's often more time to think, but fewer people to talk to, that silence becomes dangerous. Your mind can turn into an echo chamber of old pain. And here's the thing, even if you don't say a word, people can feel it. They sense the tension, the guardedness, the emotional walls. And without meaning to, they step back. The more they step back, the lonelier you feel, and the bitterness grows stronger. It becomes a cycle, and the longer it goes on, the harder it is to escape. I once spoke to a gentleman named Frank. He was 78 years old and hadn't spoken to his brother in 3 decades. The fight had started over something small, so small that neither of them could even remember the details anymore. But every year of silence added another layer of resentment. Frank told me, at this point, I wouldn't even know what to say to him. That one choice, leaving that wound unhealed, cast a shadow over Frank's later years. But it didn't have to. Letting go of bitterness doesn't mean pretending nothing happened. It means choosing peace over pain. It's saying, yes, it hurt. But I refuse to let it define me anymore. And when you make that choice, something shifts. Your shoulders feel lighter. Your laughter comes easier. And relationships you thought were impossible to fix, sometimes begin to heal on their own. The past can't be changed. But the way you live with it can. And when you release bitterness, you open the door to something far too many people give up on too soon, joy. Mistake number 2, ignoring physical decline. The second mistake that leads so many older adults into misery is ignoring the early signs of physical decline. Now, I know, this is a tough one. Nobody wants to admit they're slowing down. Nobody likes to think about needing help for things they once did without a second thought. But here's the truth, pretending it isn't happening doesn't stop it. It only makes the fall harder when it comes. After 60, our bodies start sending little warning signs. Maybe your knees complain when you stand. Your back feels stiff after gardening. Or you find yourself out of breath climbing the stairs you used to run up. And what do most people do? They brush it off. They say, "I'm just tired. It's nothing serious." But those small aches and pains? That's your body whispering, "Please, pay attention." Ignore it long enough, and that whisper can turn into a crisis. Why do so many ignore these signs? For some, it's pride. Many of you spent your whole lives being strong, the one who carried the weight for everyone else. Admitting that your body is changing can feel like weakness. But listen, real strength isn't pretending you're fine. Real strength is knowing when to adapt, when to rest, and when to ask for help so you can keep living well. And then there's fear. The thought of using a cane or going to physical therapy feels like losing independence. But here's the irony, avoiding those tools doesn't protect your independence, it risks it. I once knew a man named Gerald. He was 74 and refused to see a doctor about his balance problems. "I don't need a walker," he'd say. "That's for old folks." Then one day, he slipped in the shower, broke his hip, and spent months recovering. He lost muscle, confidence, and the spark that made him feel alive. If he'd faced the problem sooner, that fall never had to happen. He could have stayed active, on his own terms. Accepting physical change isn't giving up. It's wisdom. It's choosing to respect your body instead of ignoring it. Because misery doesn't come from aging. It comes from pretending you're fine while your body is begging for care. When you listen, when you stretch, strengthen, get checkups, or use the tools that help, you don't lose control. You take it back. And that's when life feels brighter, freer, and far more your own. If you're still here, listening closely, it means you care about living well. And trust me, the next mistake might just be the one that changes everything for you. Comment number 2 below if you're still with me, because I want to know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. Your support helps us keep creating content that informs, inspires, and truly makes a difference in people's lives. Now, let's keep going. Mistake number 3, isolating yourself from others. One of the most damaging, yet often overlooked, mistakes many older adults make is slowly withdrawing from social connections. At first, it feels natural. Friends move away. Loved ones pass on. Health issues make it harder to get out. So, bit by bit, you start staying home more. You decline invitations. You tell yourself, "I'm fine on my own." But here's the truth, this kind of isolation doesn't protect your peace. It chips away at it. Human beings were never meant to live in silence. We are wired for connection. We thrive when we are seen, heard, and valued. Yet many older adults unintentionally cut themselves off from the very relationships that could lift their spirits. They tell themselves it's easier to be alone, that they don't want to be a burden, or that nobody would understand. But loneliness, my friend, is misery in disguise. When you stop connecting with others, your world gets smaller. Your thoughts loop in the same circles. Your moods grow heavier. Even your memory can decline faster without regular conversation and stimulation. In fact, studies show that loneliness can be as harmful to your health as smoking or obesity. But you don't need a study to know what it feels like, to sit in silence, day after day, with no one to talk to, no one to laugh with, no one to share a simple cup of coffee. Now, I get it. Reaching out again isn't easy. You might feel like the people you once counted on are gone. But connection doesn't always have to come from the past. It can be created, right here, right now. It can be as small as waving to your neighbor, calling an old friend, joining a library club, visiting a senior center, or attending a church group. Take Edna, for example. At 82, she lost her husband and her two closest friends in the same year. For months, she barely spoke to anyone. Then one day, her daughter invited her to a quilting circle. Edna resisted. She didn't know anyone and worried it would feel awkward. But she went. And slowly, stitch by stitch, she began to smile again. She shared stories. She laughed. And for the first time in a long while, she felt like herself again. That small group became her lifeline. The biggest lie loneliness tells you is that you're alone. You're not. People care. People are waiting for someone just like you to show up and say hello. Don't rob yourself of the joy that comes from connection. Even one meaningful conversation a week can lift your spirits and remind you that life still holds laughter, warmth, and understanding. Misery doesn't always come from tragedy. Sometimes it comes from silence. But when you choose to reach out, you begin to rewrite your story. You shift from simply surviving, to truly living. Mistake number 4, ignoring physical pain or discomfort. Another incredibly common, and completely avoidable, mistake older adults make is brushing off physical pain as just part of aging. Maybe it's that nagging ache in your knee. Or a tightness in your chest. Or simply the difficulty of bending or walking the way you used to. And you tell yourself, that's normal for someone my age. But here's the truth. Normal does not mean harmless. Ignoring pain doesn't make you strong. It puts you at risk. It's a shortcut to misery. Pain is your body's way of saying, something isn't right. Yet, far too often, older adults try to tough it out instead of getting help. They downplay symptoms, skip doctor visits, or assume, well, that's just aging. Nothing can be done. Yes, some discomfort may come with age. But dismissing it completely? That can turn small, treatable problems into serious ones, both physically and emotionally. And the cost isn't just in your body. Unaddressed pain wears down your mood. It drains your energy. It takes away the simple joys, gardening, walking, playing with the grandkids, until they start feeling like burdens instead of blessings. Before you know it, you're avoiding the things you love, sitting more, sleeping poorly, and feeling discouraged. That creates a cycle of decline. It might start with a little twinge in your back, but it ends with a life that feels smaller and harder than it ever needed to be. And let's be honest, many of us grew up in a time when we were taught not to complain. To be tough, to not make a fuss. But aging isn't about silently suffering. It's about being wise enough to listen to your body and speak up when something isn't right. There's no medal for enduring unnecessary pain. But there is incredible reward in addressing it early, because that's how you protect your comfort, your independence, and your dignity. Take Roy, for example. Roy is 78 and used to love fishing. A few years back, he noticed stiffness in his hands. He assumed it was arthritis and decided not to see a doctor. Slowly, he stopped fishing altogether, convinced he'd never hold a rod again. Then one day, his daughter insisted he visit a specialist. The truth? It wasn't arthritis at all. It was a pinched nerve, completely treatable. Within weeks of therapy, Roy was back at the lake, rod in hand, smiling like a kid again. That's the difference it makes when you listen to your body and respond with care instead of silence. Pain is not weakness. Pain is a message. And every message deserves to be heard, especially when it could be the key to living, not just enduring. So don't let pride, fear, or outdated beliefs keep you from getting help. You deserve comfort. You deserve ease. And most importantly, you deserve a life that's defined by what you enjoy, not by what you endure. If you're still watching, comment number 4 below so I know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, hit that button and turn on the bell. Your support helps us create more content to inform and inspire you. Now, let's move forward. Mistake number 5, refusing to ask for help. There's a quiet kind of suffering that comes from refusing to ask for help. Not because you don't need it, but because you're too proud or too afraid. This mistake is easy to overlook, but it's one of the biggest reasons so many older adults feel isolated, overwhelmed, and defeated. The fear of being a burden runs deep, especially for those who spent a lifetime being the strong one, the provider, the caretaker. But aging doesn't make you weak. It simply means your needs change. And there is no shame in that. Too often, older adults believe asking for help is a sign of failure. Whether it's carrying groceries, managing medications, learning technology, or even needing emotional support, many suffer in silence, hoping the problem will somehow fix itself. But here's the truth, it's not asking for help that causes misery. It's not the help you ask for that causes misery. It's the help you don't ask for. There's a reason support systems exist: family, friends, neighbors, church groups, community centers. They're not there to pity you. They're there because people genuinely care and want to be a part of your life. When you let others help you, you don't lose dignity. You gain connection. You give someone the chance to show love, and you give yourself permission to breathe. Take Barbara, for example. She's a 74-year-old widow who spent months trying to fix a leaking kitchen pipe all by herself. She didn't want to bother her son who lived nearby. Eventually, that little leak turned into a flood, damaging her floor and costing her thousands of dollars. When her son found out, he wasn't angry. He was heartbroken. All she had to do was call, and it could have been fixed in a single afternoon. This fear of being a burden often comes from a lifetime of independence. But here's the truth, needing help doesn't erase your strength. It's simply wisdom, knowing when to share the load. And the beautiful thing? When you open up and accept help, others often open up too. You create bonds built on trust, not pity. So, if you've been carrying everything alone, ask yourself, is it really helping, or is it holding you back? Yes, there's courage in independence, but there's also power in community. Don't let unnecessary struggle steal your joy. Asking for help isn't giving up. It's choosing to live better. And that's one choice you'll never regret. Final thoughts. Life after 60 isn't a slow descent into misery. It's a chance, a powerful opportunity, to rise above the mistakes that keep so many people stuck. The truth is, nobody teaches us how to age well. There's no manual for this stage of life. We stumble, we guess, and sometimes we develop habits that quietly drain our energy, our joy, and our sense of purpose. But here's the good news, just because you've made a few missteps doesn't mean you have to stay there. If you've recognized even one of these mistakes in yourself, whether it's holding on to bitterness, neglecting your health, isolating yourself, refusing help, or simply forgetting to care for your own happiness, that awareness alone is already a sign of growth. And the beautiful thing about this chapter of life is that you still get to decide how the story ends. You can unlearn. You can rebuild. You can reconnect. You can rediscover the parts of yourself that may have been buried under years of responsibility and expectation. Don't let pride keep you lonely. Don't let fear keep you silent. Don't let routine keep you small. You've lived too much, learned too much, and loved too much to settle for a life that feels anything less than meaningful. It's never too late to ask yourself, what do I still want from this life? And it's never too late to go after it, even if it's as simple as peace, laughter, or a warm cup of coffee shared with a friend. You are not here by accident. Every breath is proof that you still have something to give, something to feel, and something to enjoy. So be kind to yourself. Forgive yourself. Because misery doesn't come from age, it comes from giving up on yourself. Thank you for spending this time with us today. We'd love to hear from you. Share one thing you learned from this video in the comments below and how you plan to use it in your life. Your words matter. And reading them gives us the motivation to keep going and keep creating. If you found this video helpful, please like, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need it. Your support helps us continue making meaningful content that inspires and uplifts. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.